And we are live.
All right.
How's everybody doing?
All right. If you're looking for this, we got this posted in our Instagram feed, and we got it posted on Facebook. So if you're trying to find it right now, that's where to look for it. And if you're watching this on YouTube later, just pause the video, jot this down, and you can start with us. Okay. So today we've got a kind of foil, or at least point weapon oriented workout. So if you're into stabbing stuff, we got a great thing for you to practice today. So I'm not going to be hitting a target, but if you've got a target at home, you can use that. If you don't have a target, that's fine. Maybe you can dress up your roommate in fencing gear and stab them. Whatever. I mean, improvise, adapt, overcome. But so we're going to start off. You're going to need a foil, or if you don't have a fencing sword at home, you're going to want to get a stick or a PVC tube or something that's like about 3 foot long that you can use. And I'm going to use my foil, but you're going to need that right away. We're going to use this during our warm-up today. So if you don't have your stick, go get your stick, because you're going to need it in the next 10 minutes. So go scramble and get that stick. While you're doing that, I'm going to put this down, so we won't need this right away for drill 1. We're going to start with our cardio. So, turn that on. All right. So we'll do some cardio. I'm going to jog in place, but if you caught Sam's live stream yesterday, he did a little bit of shadow boxing or shadow fencing. So he didn't talk too much about kind of what the purpose of it is, and can take this opportunity to expand on it. The idea is you're visualizing what another person would be doing while you fence. And boy, if there's any sort of meta level kind of thing that I would want fencers to be good at, is visualizing that kind of stuff. Technique's great, but you got to think about how you're going to apply that when you're out there fighting. So if I'm just getting super crispy technique that looks great, but I don't know what to do with it, it's not super useful. I mean, the other side of it's also true. If you're really good at anticipating and reading and seeing what's going on, but your technique is not so good, you're not going to do well either. So it takes both to become really good. You see fencers that are strong in one or the other top 8 all the time. There's not one particular thing that dominates. So in any case, if you want to do a little bit of footwork, thinking about what the other person's doing, you can do that instead of jogging in place. I like jogging in place because it helps place me mentally in the space. It's the thing I do every single time before I fence. So it's kind of like my little ritual. I like that. Brings me into fencing mode. And if you don't have a ritual for fencing, you should get one. You could go on and on about, we got a minute, I'll talk about it. So most professional level athletes have a ritual, a pregame ritual that they do for that exact reason. It is a psychological hook that puts them in a place where they're ready to perform. And it's not just athletes. Musicians have this, and anyone you can think of that's going to go and do a thing in a place where there's high pressure, you'll often see performance-oriented rituals that they do. It could be tying your shoes a certain way. It could be, going onto the play field and doing a specific set of movements. Whatever it is, you want to have a pregame ritual that you do. For me, that's always jogging for me. But you'll see some of my other pregame rituals pop up when we get into doing footwork a little bit later, because I have some of those too to help hook me into fencing and get my brain ready to go. So I don't have to mentally warm up as much. Okay, time. So we're gonna do our favorite. We're gonna use some sweeps. And today, since we're gonna be doing a lot of thrusts and different sort of arm timings, our shoulders and our upper back are possibly going to be getting tight. So we're going to do some sweeps, and then we'll move on to doing some other things. So sweeps, as you know, or if you don't, this is what you do. Got your leading foot out, trailing foot back, and then you sit. Back is remaining straight. As you sit down and bend at the hip. So I'm hinging down, and I go down and through. It's more important that my hips go back than anything else. I don't want to be just curling over and be like, look, I'm doing it. No, you're not. This is better than this. My hip angle didn't really change. This is better for your back than this is. But that being said, you do you. If you want to fold all the way over, you can. I'm not going to come to your house and stop you. There's a quarantine. It's fine. And you got room. You can step and sweep, so you don't have to stay in place if you don't want to. And it's legally murky for us to have music on when we do these, but I highly recommend while you're at home, take advantage. Put some music on. You know, if you're on your phone, you got your AirPods in, play some music in the background while you're listening to the stream, or put it on a speaker or something while you're listening. You know, whatever. Doing this kind of stuff with some music, highly recommend. But again, you know, when we put this stuff on YouTube, can't really have music in the background without getting like a copyright claim on the video. So, it's too bad. But you know, such is life. But the upside is you get to play your own music. You don't have to listen to my terrible music while we warm up. All right. So that's about 2 minutes. So now we're going to move into doing a quad stretch for another 2 minutes or so. Each of the items on here, 2-3 minutes, give or take. Some of the stuff in the later part during blade work, that's going to take a little longer because I'm going to talk more. But other than that, we're going to keep everything short. So quad stretch, you can balance on one foot, or you can use a chair or a wall if you have something nearby to help you balance. Either one's fine. So we'll cook a minute on each side. So I'm grabbing my ankle. You can grab the top of your foot, you can grab your ankle. All that's fine. The only thing you don't want to be doing is grabbing like way out on your toes and cranking there. Elongating that muscle on the front of your shin, it can put the wrong kind of strain on your knee. And generally, you want to avoid that because knee replacements are like $35,000, and I don't have that kind of money, so I'm gonna not mess with my knees. I'm gonna do stuff that makes them happy. And then if you need extra stretch, you can push this up. Sam did a version yesterday where he was laying down. I'm just doing the standing up version of that. Both of them work great. So if you're really having trouble balancing, you can do this on your side, laying down, if you'd like. Okay, so it's been about a minute, so we're going to do the other side. So find your balance. Good. And then I'm reaching out with my other hand, the hand that's on my foot or ankle, and it's supporting and then pulling. And as I pull, I always like to think of it as like a fencing thrust that I do at the same time. So I like do a thrust while I'm pushing my leg away. So I push with my back leg and I thrust with my front arm. So I go, hit, hit. And for all you epee fencers, you can imagine when you're doing it with your leading foot back, you're avoiding a toe hit and then also hitting at the same time. So, fun stuff. Okay, back on this side for a second. So we got maybe about 10 seconds left on the clock.
I feel like doing this, it can be tempting to lean forward, especially as you start pushing your knee back.
Yeah.
I assume you don't want to do that, though. Do you? Or does it?
Yes and no. So, like, you're right to say, take a quick detour. When I lean, it doesn't change the angle of my leg to my body. So the hip angle when I lean doesn't really change. So that's it's worth mentioning that leaning doesn't really make the stretch really much different because the stretch is engaged by changing the angle of your femur relative to the rest of your torso. Yeah. But I lean over a little bit because it feels good, so I do it, but it doesn't add anything. You know, it's like putting parsley on a dish. It's nice, but that's not gonna be the thing that makes the dish for you. Okay, we're gonna do our straddle stretch. So that's like getting your best sumo stance, except with your legs straight. A little dusty.
Oh, yep, that's always an issue.
Can you
Even with
imagine?
nobody here.
We haven't been sweeping much the last couple of weeks because there's not a lot of people to worry about sweeping up after. But, so we're in our stretch, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna hinge at the hips again. But I'm really working hard to make my back feel long, so I'm pushing my back away from my hips. While I do this, what I'm not doing is curling over. Not yet, but you can. I'll show you how. So right now, I've got my back elongated away from my hips, and then I can slowly let everything drop down. Now, from here, there's a couple different ways to proceed. If you are highly flexible, you'll be able to do this with your legs straight. If you are working on your flexibility, like I am, you will have to bend your knees to accomplish this. So what we're gonna do is from here, we're gonna let our knees bend, and then you're gonna use your feet, or use your hands. These are hands. You're gonna use your hands to walk everything down. So once I'm here, I'm going to push my legs straighter. So I'm pushing away. You can see it here. So I let everything bend. I'm keeping the back relatively straight. And then I'm going to push away from the floor. And this sucks really bad. So I'm anchored here so that my body can't get away while I push. So I'm keeping everything stable. And then I push. I do an isometric hold in this position. So I'm pushing, and my arms and my body are not letting my legs fully go. But I'm not, my lower back is not curved down in an extreme way. It's relatively straight. Oh boy, isometric holds are literally the worst. Okay.
Oh, but they're so good for your flexibility.
Yeah, they're great for tendon health. And a quick note on flexibility, if you haven't taken a class with me before, this might be new. Those of you who have taken my class know what I'm about to say about flexibility and tendon work. You can only do about 6 minutes of tendon work every 12 hours. After 6 minutes on any tendon group, there's significant diminishing returns on how much extra flexibility that you can get out of a particular tendon group. An Australian ballet, I think the Australian ballet did a study on flexibility routines, because in ballet they have like these entrenched 300-year-old sort of like ideas about, not too different from fencing in a way, but like doing like 3 or 4 hours of flexibility stuff, like going into the splits and then just staying in the splits for an hour and a half straight. And so rightfully, some kinesiologists were like, is this really the thing that's gonna work the best? It turns out 6 or 7 minutes is about the top amount of time that you can really get any sort of meaningful flexibility work done with a particular tendon group. And then it needs 12 hours of recuperation time. So you can stretch in the morning, and you can stretch in the evening, but you want to limit it to like 6 minutes so you're not just wasting 6 minutes per tendon group, let's be clear. So like you do 5 groups, that's a half hour. So but you can still be doing a fair amount. Okay, shoulder dislocations. I'm so excited. Okay, you're not really literally going to dislocate your shoulder. That'd be silly. But this is where you're going to need your foil. And if you don't have good shoulder mobility yet, you're going to need a longer stick. So maybe like a broom handle or something, but you'll find out. If you can't do it here with just like a fencing sword, then you can try it after the stream with a longer stick. And if you're watching on YouTube, just pause the video, get a longer stick, it's fine. So you're gonna stand with your abs activated so you're not pushing your stomach out. Folks who are a little older can have more problems with that if we're not working on our core strength. So I got everything above my head, and I'm going to go back, keeping my arms straight. I'm not letting my arms bend at all. So my arms go back, and all the way through. So you go all the way to the bottom, and then you go all the way up, and around. So. Whew, lots of fun. All the way back, and then all the way around. This is something that Olympic lifters, so not Olympic fencers, but Olympic weightlifters will often do. Because when they do, I believe it's when they do the jerk and they have to get right up under
Yes.
it, they have to be able to lock it out kind of behind their head. And if their shoulders are super tight, it's going to end up above their head the wrong way, and they're not going to be able to support the weight. They need to get it all the way back over their shoulders. So in any case, so they do a lot of this before they do overhead press and other sort of work above the head to increase mobility in the traps and the lats and all those groups that go around the shoulders but not in the shoulder itself. But it does some wonders for your delts as well. Okay, so we did a few of those. It's time for us to move on to some footwork. You can do this with a weapon. You can do this without. I'm going to do this without a weapon first, because we're going to have our own blade work section later. Right now, I'm just going to focus on doing footwork. Okay, crunch. So just for a warm-up, we're going to do some advancing and retreating. Nothing too crazy, so we'll do about a minute or 2 minutes. So I'm just doing one at a time, doing them nice and small. And when I run out of space, I start going backwards. And going forwards. And I'm going backwards. Keeping my chest open and wide. I'm not hunched over. You don't need to like push it way out, but you want to make sure your chest is up and your neck is long. If my shoulders are tight, so doing those shoulder dislocations helps me keep my shoulders loose so that my neck stays loose. If my neck is tight, my shoulder's going to be tight. So if I'm like holding my head up and turning my head way too much, everything in here is going to end up getting tight, and it's going to pull on my shoulder. You are a collection of essentially popsicle sticks and rubber bands, right? So if something's pulling on here, everything else in the system is going to start getting pulled on too. And you know, your neck being tight is not going to make your pinky tight, but it definitely will make things in your shoulder have limited performance. We don't want that. We want to increase performance, not decrease performance. All right, last 30 seconds. You want to be extra low for some extra challenge. Last couple seconds. And time. Okay, so now we're going to do some lunges. We're going to do some short ones. We're going to do some long ones. Those of you who've been looking out, did you see my on guard ritual? No? All right. Sometimes I'll kick in like that. Sometimes I'll step back and then step in. But whatever it is, see if you can figure out your own. All right, so we'll do some short lunges. Ow.
You all right there?
Huh?
You all right there?
Ow!
I heard it.
Not ouch.
Okay.
No, that's. Bow. I'm excited.
All right. Excitement's good.
I'm pretending that I'm scoring a touch.
Mm-hmm.
I'm imagining I'm coming up and I'm hitting high line. That's where my hands up. Bow. Getting that hand out. Bow. Okay, now let's do some longer lunges now that we've kind of warmed up with some shorter ones. You can see with that line, I'm just stepping over with my short lunge. My long lunge is going to go just a little further. It's not going to be like double the size, just a little longer. Okay, so we'll go, wow, there we go. You see it? I had to reset my on guard. I did my routine. So I noticed my feet were creeping together. My back foot was slowly sliding up. So I had to fix it. All right, one more. All right. So now we're gonna do advanced lunge and retreat lunge. So we'll do a minute on each side. So we'll start with some advanced lunges, then we'll do our retreat lunges. You can choose a short lunge and you can choose a long lunge. That's up to you. Okay, so we'll start with our 2-minute timer. And if you got a little space, use a little space. If you got a lot of space, you can do more in a row before you switch. I'm gonna let you decide when you switch back and forth between advanced and retreat. I'm gonna do it probably like a minute each. Okay. And for more experienced students, you can play around with the tempo of your step as well. You don't have to keep it the same tempo every time. For newcomers, you want to keep that tempo really consistent. Keep the tempo the same so that you get better. If you're really familiar, then you can play with tempo. So, newcomers should look more like this. 1, 2, 3, and reset. More advanced people can slow down the beginning. They can slow down the lunge. And you can play around with doing the whole thing slow, the whole thing fast. All right, so we're gonna switch to doing some retreat lunges now. So same thing, just backward instead. So we go ba, 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 ba. Okay, couple more. Okay, so now we're going to do a little bit of following, you and I, and then we'll have you lunge on a particular signal. Later, we're going to add some blade work context into that, but the body signal is always going to be the same. So you're going to look for when I'm on my front foot, when I'm leaning in. If I'm leaning in, my weight's on my front foot, And for a split second, I'm gonna be pinned down and I can't run away. If I'm on my back foot, sure. I can probably keep falling backwards and get away, but if I'm on my front foot, that's not happening most of the time. Watch some footage. Check out where people's balance is during a hit. And you might find that oftentimes when people are getting hit, their weight's on their front foot, and then later you'll see them like a split second later off of their front foot, but it's already too late. They were on their front foot at the wrong time, in critical distance, and they got hit. Okay, so now we're gonna just move in and out. I'm gonna follow a particular pattern, so you won't have to guess as much, but I'm still gonna mix it up a little. So I'm gonna go in and out. So I'm gonna do 2 in and 2 out most of the time. But if I take an extra step in there, 1, 2, 3, you gotta take that third step. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Did you catch it? Lunge. Good. So, moving again. 1, 2, forward, forward, back, back, forward, forward, back, back, lunge. Good. Forward, forward, back, back, forward, 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 back, back, forward, forward, back, back, lunge. Forward, forward, back, back, forward, forward, back, back, forward, forward, lunge. Good. Back, back, forward, forward. I'll make it a little harder by not telling you what to do for a minute. Good. Good. Couple more. Good. All right. We did it. So now, go ahead and pick up your foil, your epee, your rapier, whatever you got sitting around, and we're going to do some thrusting. And don't worry, saber fencers, you can do some thrusting too. It's perfectly legal, and helps you figure out where the end of that dang thing is, so you can hit people more good and stuff.
Messes with them too. A lot of people don't, at least a lot of sabers don't necessarily know what to do when a point comes straight at them. They're used to cuts.
Oh yeah, I mean, what is the point mic for? Slowing them down, that's it. And you're just like, hey, did you consider that I could do that? They go, no, I guess I didn't. Ha ha, fool, you fall into my trap. Now, I'm gonna take over. So, as a deterrent, if nothing else, it's very valuable. Okay, so we're gonna do thrusts with an advance and thrusts with a retreat, and we're gonna play around with the timing. So we're gonna time the thrust. For now, we're gonna do it we're gonna do it smoothly through, and we're gonna finish with our arm not quite all the way down, and you'll see why in the next drill. But so I'm gonna do my advance, and I'm gonna get my thrust about halfway done, and I'm smoothly moving it across the step, so I'm not like doing it really sharply at one time. I'm moving it smoothly move and relax. Do half of the thrust and relax. Halfway and halfway and course, I left my timer over there. What was I thinking? What was I thinking? I mean, sure, I can count, but I only have so many fingers. So, all right, half and ba. Good. And the more experienced fencers are probably noticing that my thrust is not, it's smooth-ish, but there's definitely an acceleration curve to it where it's like it accelerates and then slows down. So it's like bigger at the front, but at the end, it's still going. So it slows down as the step goes on. So big at the beginning, lower later. So if you're more experienced, try that out. Try like goofing around or doing it the opposite, where it starts really slow and then finishes a little quicker. So slow and then faster at the end. So play around. Slow and fast. Arm comes out a little bit at the beginning and then more at the end. Slow and fast. Referees love this, where they see some beginning of the attack that your opponent maybe isn't seeing, and then you see more acceleration towards the end as the commitment deepens into the attack itself. So as I get closer, my dedication to the action gets deeper. But you can go the other direction where you can do it more committed at the beginning and then ease off. So big into a slow action. Big, slow. I'm not stopping. But there's a very clear acceleration at the beginning, and then it kind of calms down at the end. But from the side, you can see it here. From the side, there's a continuous movement. But from the front, you see something like that. The first part's more jarring than the second part. So the second part, which is visible from the side, gets a little lost in translation from the front, which is really, really good. You want, especially in foil and saber, you want things that look good from the side, but look different from the front. Key. That's a key thing. There's some free advice for you today. Okay, cool. So we'll do a couple of those with some retreats, and we'll move on. All right. So we'll start, we'll do faster at the beginning first. And epee fencers, don't think I forgot about you. All of these things about how visual the action is from the front, this is still very useful to you as a fencer. The right-of-way priority argument is not really there, but it doesn't change the fact that they're seeing something that's different than what's actually happening in real life. Like you can do a quick, fast thing into a potential, parry or bind, but then you slow down, it goes straight past and you finish right into their hand. Oh, it's so good. Okay, so fast and slow. Fast, slow. Fast, slow. And then we'll do some slow, fast. Slow, fast. Slow, fast. Maybe you're seeing how they're going to respond and then they don't. Epee fencer picks off the hand. Saber fencer starts slow, cuts right to the wrist since they're not responsive. Are they going to do it? No. All right. And okay, so now we're going to do arm timing with a lunge. So there's 3 primary ways that you can time your arm in a lunge. And it really depends on what type of counteroffense you're trying to suppress with your attack. Let's demonstrate. So the first one, this one is where you are mostly concerned with being parried. We'll start there. So if you're really worried about getting parried, then you're gonna do this action a little bit differently than normal. So if I'm really concerned with getting parried and I want to kind of hide my attack from my opponent, I'm going to start my arm really slow at the beginning of the lunge, and then I'm going to push it out towards the end. So it's going to be slow And then at the end of the lunge, that's when I'm going to bring the arm in. A more extreme version would be like a holding attack where you're actually keeping your arm away from them until you hit, but it's mandatory, especially in right-of-way weapons, that they are looking for your blade actively during that. Or else you can run into some problems with getting countered. So, slow and then fast at the end. Slow, fast. Slow, fast. Okay, if I'm worried about the other person pulling distance on me, I'm probably gonna get my arm out a little bit sooner. So I'm gonna bring the arm out to see if I can get them to jump early. Because if I'm not worried about them parrying and I'm not worried about them counterattacking, then I can get my blade in here. It's not a problem. So I start my attack a little bit earlier just to see what's going on. And if they run away, great. I'm slowing down. My arm is loose and relaxed at the end. I do most of the effort at the beginning, and then just kind of is at rest as I'm landing, which is when they're going to come in with their distance pull, and then their attack comes in. I'm loose. I'm ready to shut it down. But if I do something really, really strong at the end of the lunge, my arm's going to be still recovering from stabilizing, and then that's no good. So I want to go in a little harder at the beginning and then relax so that when I land, I'm ready to parry against that counter. Okay, and if I'm worried about them counterattacking, I don't, especially in epee and saber, I don't want my hand hanging out there really, really early. But I don't want my hand to be late either, because if they're countering, there's a window where they can hit and I can hit, and I need to be there right at that time. I can't be early, I can't be late. So I want to bring my arm out more smoothly throughout the action. And most of the time, this is the action we teach you, is the smooth extension through the entire attack. And it's good, but it's not good for everything, but it's good for most things. So I do my action, arms come out. So smooth all the way through. I'm not too worried about them parrying. I'm not too worried about them making me miss. I'm just worried about finishing on target. There is a caveat in foil where holding your arm a little bit more can be good, because most of the time when they're counterattacking, what are they going to do? They're going to counterattack, and then they're going to move off axes from you to stop you from hitting. And if your arm comes in a little later, that's actually often good. So all this comes with a grain of salt. Okay, so let's practice each of those on their own. So we'll start with the one we did first, which is accelerating the arm at the end of the lunge. So gentle, back. So slow, fast. Slow, fast. Slow, fast. So the arm comes out right at the end. I'm still separating my arm from the body a little bit, but the final part of the action is very strong. Okay, now let's do accelerating towards the beginning of the lunge instead of the end, so stronger against someone doing a distance pull, just in case you miss. Get the arm going right away. And just in case they're a little slow, your arm's out at maximum reach early, so you're gonna get up. And make sure that arm's loose at the end. You don't want to be tight when you're landing. You want to be out, but then loose. Okay, so now we do the third one. Arm is coming out smoothly across the lunge. So check it out. So there's not really acceleration in the thrust, it's just all coming out at following. You're gonna have your sword, and then we're gonna do this with different lunges. So I'm gonna ask you to do a different thing depending on what I do while I lean. So if I lean in and I give you an opening where I'm narrow, what does that probably mean? So if I'm doing this, well, I'm probably going to try and do some kind of counterattack. So I'm going to either reach out and cut under the guard or saber. I'm going to try and come in and get on the inside of the wrist and epee, or I'm going to try and hit and then pivot out of the way and avoid it. So if I'm a little more narrow, I'm trying to set up some kind of counterattack, in which case we'll do the thing we just did. Smooth through the action. If I come in and I have my point up like this, so if I'm leaning over with my point up, what do I probably want to do? Probably want to parry. So you're going to come in, you're going to accelerate the blade at the end, so I have a hard time timing when I need to take the blade. If I just swing out there as soon as you lunge, you're going to have no problem avoiding it because your blade's not into my space as much. Okay, so if my point's up like this, when I give you the signal, then you'll do the thing. And then finally, if I'm in a full distance, if I've got my blade down instead of up. If I've got my blade down, I'm in a full distance. It's crazy how often this is a thing. Like when someone's going to pull distance, they'll have their hand down. Why? Because they know they're not going to parry, so they don't care. And so they're just sitting there doing this, doing all this stuff. Like, you know that they're going to pull you short. The only time they're going to parry you is if like they have just a too good to pass up opportunity to take the blade. But most of the time, they're just going to pull distance. Okay, let's practice each of those with their signal, and then we'll do the exercise. Okay, so we're standing, we're on guard. Nice. I have the foot thing, and I've got a little hand movement. It's all part of that ritual. He referenced it again. What a mad lad. Okay, so told you we'd talk about it today. So in any case, so again, if I give you a signal where I'm leaning but I'm narrow, that's your cue to do a smooth attack. So ready? Smooth attack. Okay, good. And then delayed attack. I'm going to try and I'm going to go point up and then parry. So those of you who are more experienced can avoid the parry that I do. Those of you who are less experienced, don't worry about it. Just focus on the time. And then finally, we've got option 3, which is I come in and I lean, but I drop my point. So then that's just arm out right away, get in there, get your hit. Okay, one more time. So smooth attack. So this is not point down, notice. So my point is dropping, but it hasn't disappeared. It's still in here. Gotta be careful. Okay, point up. Good. And then point down. Good. Okay, let's try it out. So same idea as before, we're gonna take a couple steps in and out. So 2 advances, 2 retreats. Just for now, we can mix it. Arm right away, right away. Good. Right away, right away. Move in. And delay the arm. Good. Delay the arm. Good. Oop. Arm smooth all the way through. Smooth attack all the way through. Delay the arm. Good. Delay. delay, right away. Smooth. Right away. Right away with that attack. Smooth attack. Go. Delayed. Good. Couple more. I'm going to take the tempo up a little bit. Delayed. Moving. Smooth. Moving. Right away. Moving. Smooth. Moving. Delayed. Smooth. Good. Right away. Good. Okay, so that's what I got planned for you today. If you want, sometimes a good thing to do after a workout is to do some extra stretching. So I know for me, my shoulder is feeling pretty tight, so I'm gonna do some more shoulder dislocations after we sign off. I'm probably gonna do a couple more things. So feel free to circle back and do the warm-up stuff. Maybe not the cardio since your heart rate's already up, but you could do a couple more things where you feel tight. So that's it for now. Till next time, until we can see you again in person, we'll see you out here on the internet, and we'll see you tomorrow.